Roy Russell, my good friend, welcome to People and Legal.
Hi, David. Good to see you.
Yes. How long have we known each other for, Roy?
Oh, good grief. Must be getting close to 20 years now.
I think it's actually, I always love our catch-ups. It's always great catch-ups around life and business and everything else. And I mean, you've been an amazing friend over that time and learnt many, many things, and we've done some great business together as well. And it's
Uh,
fantastic to see how well Service is doing. But for our audience, I would love you to introduce yourself and talk about what you do and how you work in the legal industry.
yeah, my name's Roy Russell. I'm the founder and managing director, CEO of Assertus. And we are a solutions provider in the European legal and professional services markets. Um, we specialize not just in law firms and accountancies, but also um, legal departments within large corporates, which is very niche. And I'm pleased to say that we have probably more corporate accounts than any other vendor out there. And maybe our speciality is I manage. We've been an I manage partner for getting on uh, 18 years now, and we've probably over 120 corporate blue chip companies we deal with, as well as some of the largest law firms in the world.
Wow.
So yeah, and we've grown quite significantly over the last 5 or 6 years, and we're no longer the sleepy little asserters that no one had heard of, but we're starting to make some waves in the market here in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Roy, where did your career journey start? How did it all start off?
A long, long time ago. Don't let these little baby cheeks kid you. I'm a lot older than I look. Yeah, I left school at 16 and fell into a 4-year electrical engineering apprenticeship, which I wasn't expecting to do. But I had one of those careers trips and ended up submitting an application form. It was the only one I submitted, and I got offered a place. And I believe that there was something like 40,000 applicants for 80 places, and
Wow.
I, I, I amazingly got one, and I think I was the youngest out the 80 for that year's intake. So that set me off on the path of doing something technical, and I had 4 years there, and the good thing about it was I wasn't tied in. I didn't have to stay there. And I came and I looked around when my 4 years was up and found a job in repairing office equipment for a for an office supplies company, and I was working on the first electronic typewriters, um, and things progressed, and I ended up working for a company called Wang. A lot of your older listeners in the legal market space will be very familiar with Wang and Wang VS, apart from laughing at the name. And I was a field engineer there. Uh, Moved into software support, and Wang was an amazing company. It went through a huge growth in the early 80s, but then like a comet, burnt up very quickly during the early 90s. And I was fortunate enough to get involved with a company that specialized in integrating Wang systems into PC networks, which were then obviously coming to the fore. And uh, that became my business, and I set up a company with four other business partners, and we were basically helping clients move into the PC networking world, migrating their documents off of Wang, and I've been pretty much doing the same thing ever since. And that was, as I say, from the early 90s. But as part of that, we realised that you're taking people from this centralised, very controlled, managed environment where the users didn't even have to think about where they saved documents or what they called them. And if they wanted a document back, they got a little book out where they'd written a number down, and we typed the number in, and the document popped back up again. And then you suddenly give them a PC and say, right, now you've got to learn DOS, and you've got to learn about file structures and folders, and all of a sudden, I used to call it lanarchy. You got these users that just didn't have a clue where to put documents or what to call them. And that led us to looking for a document management system to represent into the UK market. We found a product called Soft Solutions, which was a DOS-based product. It only really worked with WordPerfect 5.1 for DOS. And we brought that to the UK market. Soft Solutions was then acquired by WordPerfect at the time, and then WordPerfect were acquired by Novell. And Novell made it clear that they weren't interested in a value-added distributor, which was fine by us, because we were able to move on and find a product that was Windows orientated. Windows 3.1 had just come out at that time, and worked on a relational database rather than a proprietary database. So we moved across, represented them. That was a product called PC Docs, Docs Open, which again, your older listeners may remember. But Docs Open became Hummingbird DM. Hummingbird DM became OpenText eDocs. So yeah, when it comes to document management, I don't think there's probably many people that have been involved with it in the UK market longer than myself. So I, as part of that, when we were acquired, we finally got acquired by PC Docs, and almost immediately after that acquisition, I was asked if I would help them out and go over to Washington DC to project manage a document management, records management, and case matter management project for the Department of Justice.
Wow.
And it was, Roy, it'll only be for a couple of weeks. Until we could hire someone locally, and I ended up being out there for 18 months. But it gave me great insight into government legal, but also I ended up working on a few other projects in corporate legal as well. And it was an amazing experience, and there's lots of stories I could tell about that. But I ended up, when I came back to the UK, with all this experience that someone in the UK just couldn't have got at that time. I mean, it was a Y2K millennial bug project. We had to get, at that time it was 800 users off of IBM mainframes with millions of time tickets and that. But I came back to the UK. Not long afterwards, OpenText bought Hummingbird, and my handcuffs were released. And I thought, hang on, let's have a go, using this experience. And that's when I set up Acertus in 2000. And I was very fortunate that soon afterwards I got retained by Barclays Retail Bank to help them with a case matter management system requirements review. That led to a product selection process, and then Barclays asked me to stay on and project manage the implementation of that. And when that was nearing the end, the software vendor that we were working with asked me to become their European representative. So that really cemented me into the corporate legal world. And I was for many years working with that product. And it wasn't until, well, the issue with those case matter management systems coming from the US were that they obviously the US market is very different, much more litigious. They have 50 jurisdictions to start with, and therefore they have a lot more in-house lawyers, and so the legal departments are far bigger than over in Europe. and their system and the systems that are developed over there tend to be, when it comes to European corporate legal departments, like sledgehammers to crack a nut. They really are big. And I realized when iManage released version 8 of their product, of the worksite product, which was introduced this concept of matter centricity, I realized that I could configure worksite to be a pseudo matter management system, and that was a path that we went down, and I've stayed with iManage ever since. So it was yeah, it was really a whole string of coincidences, coincidences that I was able to take advantage of, and carve out that little niche for Acertus. So we started building the team up, and we had, as I say, a stellar list of corporates, and in 2010 we got some attention from a large American consulting firm who ended up acquiring us, and then about 2 years into working with them, the strategic direction changed. They decided to focus more on e-discovery and the domestic North American market, and I ended up buying the company back. So that was in April 2014. Bought Acertus out, bought the staff I'd taken in out, and we novated all the clients across back to Acertus, and started again. And we were still very much corporate legal. And then towards the end of 2016, the sort of planets aligned, and we had an opportunity to move into the law firm market, and yeah, we haven't looked back since. And I'd say we have a nice 50-50 balance between corporate legal and law firms, with some accountancies thrown in. Again, we deal with anything from small boutique firms, 10, 20 users, right the way through to multinational global law firms with thousands and thousands of users. Yeah, a very good spread. And little sleepy old Acertus is now over 60 people big, and yeah, it's a very different company to where it was just 5-6 years ago.
I mean, it's interesting, Roy, because your career, you've been a trusted advisor. I mean, what do you think? I guess, what do you think makes a trusted advisor?
I think it's it's in the title, in that trusted advisor. One, that you're someone that somebody can trust, feel they can trust, and you build that up by being able to provide them good sound advice that meets addresses their requirement, and the requirements are not just technical, but they're budgetary. They're based on resources available to them. Don't try and oversell them. I think the benefit I've had, if you like, being a trusted advisor, is that I've actually built and managed a company myself, and I find one of the frustrations I find is there's so many advisors out there that have never actually done that. They've not had that experience, and therefore I feel that they're on the back foot, if you like, to some degree. But yeah, I think having been there, done it, and run my own company, excuse me, and understood what it takes to run a company, the considerations outside just the technical requirement are just as big as the technical. It's got to fit in with the the whole company. It's got to, whatever you provide as a solution has got to be part of the ethos of the company as well. Otherwise, users just won't use the system. You know, and then you get into the whole change management issues and making sure that, you know, the actual people that you're asking to use the system understand why and what the benefits are to them, not just for the company, but to themselves personally as well, so they can buy into it.
Interesting. I mean, from a cultural point of view, you guys, I mean, Acertus is known. You've got long-term relationships with a lot of people in the marketplace. You've been around for a while. You've grown it very, very steadily and very, very well. Um, I mean, what three words would you describe the Acertus culture as?
In three words. um, Friendly, um, helpful, and uh, understanding. So for the first three words that come to mind. Obviously, I could, you know, elaborate on all three, but we, you know, very simply, I want to maintain a high quality of delivery, treat clients the way that they want to be treated. You know, I always think, almost it's sort of my how I not only run the business but how I live my life. You treat people the way you want to be treated yourself. It's so simple that but you know, clients, you know, if clients want a mutually beneficial relationship, and the majority of them do, then I think they find Acertus an extremely good fit. You know, you always get the clients that don't necessarily take that view. They want to be, you know, want it all their way. That's fine. You know, we will try and work with them as much as possible. But in some cases, you know, you have to say no. This isn't a relationship that's working for either of us, and you walk away. But for the majority of our clients, it's that win-win proposition that we're always looking for.
I mean, many people try and build a consulting business, and they get to a certain size and they just can't scale it. I mean, how do you take all of the sort of principles and ideas and culture and actually instill that into the different layers of your business?
It's difficult to maintain that as you grow. I mean, okay, we're over 60 people now. It's not the biggest of companies, but it's still difficult to maintain that because you have to push down that ethic down to everyone. And you know, I think very simply it has to start at the top. So with me, and you know, and I've always worked on the basis I've never asked anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And you know, you work from that basis, you know, outwards. You know, I care for all of my staff. I know all of them. It's you know, I don't, you know, sit in a ivory tower and not get involved with the day-to-day business. And again, it's, you know, just as it is with customers, it's the same with the staff. But you know, we want to create a mutually beneficial environment for them as well. You know, we reward them extremely well, and as you know, if our staff are you know, basically we pay that with what they're expected to do, which is, you know, in their job description, and they show that they have that mutual respect as well for our clients and the vendors we work with and their colleagues, then we're all happy. And if someone steps out of line for whatever reason, we'll try and address it first and foremost. And if they don't want to come on board or get on board with it, then we will act quickly to, you know, because, you know, the old adage of a bad apple. And you know, I think I hear many times in the market, and it actually in some I take it as a big positive that Acertus is a nice company, and that's great. But unfortunately, a lot of people take nice as being a soft touch, and so often we have to deal with people that want to try and take advantage of that niceness, and we have to act swiftly, which it's that's the downside. But on the whole, I can look at the team we've got now, and I'm confident that everyone's on board and working towards the same goals, and that makes me really proud. So
Yeah, absolutely. It will do. I mean, you've got a great reputation in the marketplace. I mean, people actually the I do hear the word nice, but I also hear the word. I mean, you guys are ethical. It's actually probably ethical is probably the more the word that I think is around. Like you do the right thing when no one's watching.
yeah, it's, as I say, I don't I have worked for, let's say, people that are or companies that are less ethical, and being part of companies that are less ethical, and you feel it's pervasive throughout the rest of the company, and that breeds those bad behaviors within the team. So being ethical is just like being compliant for me. You have you it it flows down into the company, and you I so some of the staff I say, use the what would Roy do approach to things, if it's talking to a customer, because I would hope that they have have a good opinion of my thought process and my decision making, so they get an idea of how the company works. But there's you know, it, you know, I there's no hidden agendas, no we do honestly care about our customers, and we've over the last 18 months or so, we've built a customer success team to demonstrate that even more, and that's not about hard sell. It's about just keeping our clients informed and keeping them happy, helping them. I said earlier about the adoption. The last thing I want to do is sell a system and for it to just not be used, and not have the client not to get any value for it, or not to be able to leverage full value from that system. So that's what we're addressing. We're going around all our clients and saying, look, no hidden agendas, nothing. We just want to come in and help you identify how you can be better, and how we can help you be better. And that's working really well. Our customer success team are rushed off their feet, trying to keep up with it. And the feedback we're getting from clients, like anyone, we don't get it right all the time, but we certainly, if we're aware that customer it has some issues, or are not happy with us, we'll try and step up and address it as quickly as possible. And another mantra that I live by is you can make mistakes, it's how you fix them is the important thing.
I mean, Roo, what's the biggest challenge? One of the biggest challenges you've come across in your career so far, and I guess how did you get around it? What did you do?
Oh my gosh, biggest challenges. I think the biggest challenge for me personally has been that growing the company but retaining the ethics that or and the integrity that within the company, and that has been challenging, because, as I said before, if you've got people that don't necessarily want to get on board with that, or they aren't willing to be fair, and then then having to deal with that does create some HR issues that have to be addressed, and rather than ignore that bad behaviour, and make sure you weed it out, and whether and it's and that and to be honest, in today's business world, the employment laws have swung very heavily towards the employee, which no problem with that, but it does make it difficult as an employer to deal with some of the negative stuff that goes on, and yeah, and I'd like to think that the first thing we always try and fix it first. It's not, it's and if we can fix it, great. If we can't, as I said, deal with it quickly.
What do you think the biggest lesson you've learnt is so far in your career and the business?
The biggest influence. Well, I think it's a lot of it is about a lot of it. When you set a company up, it is about self belief that you can do it, and it's dry, and it's achieving is gives you great satisfaction, but ultimately, I'm doing it for my family, the longer term is a nice pension, and hopefully a long and happy retirement. So that is always in the back of my mind, but you also tied into that, you end up with okay, all of a sudden I've got a company with 60 staff. To me, that's 60 families I'm supporting, and the 60 paychecks I'm writing at the end of every month, and it becomes a massive responsibility. So that responsibility in itself is keeps driving you on to make sure that I pride myself that in the 24 years that Acertus has been going, I have never had to make anyone redundant, and I've never had to, even during the pandemic, missed payroll or anything like that. In fact, we still paid our staff bonuses during the pandemic. So
Amazing.
those sort of things, yeah, they're personal successes for me that I'd like to think, I think majority of my team really appreciate it as well, and it goes back to that whole treating staff well.
What lessons would you give other CEOs, aspiring CEOs?
Oh gosh, I think the biggest thing is, because the biggest thing I found was coming to the realization that I don't know it all. I think there's this pressure of expectation when you found a company and you're running and managing a company, that you know the answer to everything. And I don't think you can sit, you can have as many MBAs and read as many management books, and they do not prepare you for pretty much what occurs on a day-to-day basis, whether it's customer issues, staff issues, negotiation with vendors, the whole, and that's and I struggled for many years with a feeling that I was reinventing the wheel nearly every day. Every time another issue came up, it was like, oh, how do we address this? And I've got my financial and legal advisors, and even HR advisors, and I go and speak to them, and most of the time they'd say, oh, we've never come across this before, and that's That's, and then of course they don't want to get off the fence, which is extremely frustrating. And it's okay, like, you've got to make a decision yourself, and you learn the hard way, either right or you're wrong, and that's it. But I finally, I guess, came round to the idea of I needed help, and it was brought home to me. I'd always resisted the idea of getting a business consultant in to help me, because in some ways I felt that was admitting defeat, that I didn't know it all, and I couldn't do it myself. And I was having a conversation with a good friend and managing director of another company in the legal tech space, and they pointed out the very simple fact that even Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer in the world, has a coach, and that if Tiger Woods needs a coach, then Roy Russell could use a business consultant. So it was like, yeah, okay, I get that, and that, if you like, was the light bulb moment, and I looked around the market and found a business consultant I could work with, and they do provide that old sounding board, and just make you think things through and look at things from a different perspective, and it's been a great help, and has helped me move the company on. So that would be my biggest advice to a new or aspiring CEO is, don't think you can do it all yourself. You've got a comfort zone, whether it's technical knowledge, sales knowledge, some sort of domain knowledge that you know really well, and you've got your gut instincts. But once you get past that, it starts getting very grey and much more, and that's where you need the help.
Roy, how do you maintain like a work-life balance? What's it look like for you?
Oh gosh, I had extremely poor work-life balance, and it's testament to my family that they put up with it. I was, for many years I was working 7 days a week and silly hours every day, um, and I think it wasn't really until the pandemic lockdown that I really thought and experienced, if you like, a little bit of extra time where things did slow down. Fortunately, business was still good for us, but things did slow down, and it made me realise that I can't go on. Not just that, but my blood pressure as well. I had to slow down and find that balance. And I guess over the last 4 years, I think I've been successful in achieving a much better work-life balance. I certainly managed to now weekends I might check my email 2 or 3 times, but that's about it. I won't reply now unless it's an absolute emergency. And so I'm not like a policeman always on duty anymore. It's I have that time off, and if I say I'm going out, I'm going out, and so that has helped. But more importantly, and something that I have spent a lot of time and investment, and as you're aware, you've helped me, is I've built what I consider to be the best management team I could have. People that I can really trust in helping me run the company, that have the same attitude towards business and care for the business, and that having that team and putting that team together, I think is one of my biggest successes, and being able to trust them, and so I can step away from the business and feel that it's in good hands has been extremely important.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got some fantastic people at work at Assertus, that love
Yeah.
going to see at the Lemon Tree occasionally when I drop over to the UK and having a pint of Harvey's and a glass of red wine with.
Yeah, it's a little shabby, but it's a nice, comfortable place to be. It's not, I'm not uh, into these. You know, I appreciate every now and again going to a high class restaurant or a fancy members club or wine bar, but yeah, good old London pub is good for me.
Oh, it's
And they
fantastic.
do great
They
Thai
do.
food as
They
well.
do. I mean, Massaman curry is to die for. It really is. I mean, yeah, definitely some definitely Thai food is great. Roy, I'll ask you one question around the industry, just in terms of the industry itself. Where is the legal tech industry, do you think, going? And how's the Certus, I guess, traveling along with it? How's the Certus, I guess, going in that same direction?
Yeah, um, I the legal tech market has historically, I think it's been diverted very easily by the whatever the latest shiny new toy is, and a lot of firms get sidetracked into chasing after that. And at the moment, AI, artificial intelligence, is everything AI. And it's it's great, for software vendors and but it confuses and befuddles and it creates uncertainty in the market because all of a sudden there's just these hundreds of new products and a lot of time is taken up because people are thinking I've got to have it, but they don't necessarily know why they've got to have it or what they're going to do with it when they do have it. It's and we see this every couple of years, and this is the second time artificial intelligence has come around after, back in probably 2015, 2016. I think was the first wave, and this is now with Chat GPT and LLMs and everything. It's come back around, and you know, I made uh, a decision, quite a while ago that I wasn't going to get stuck on the bleeding edge technology. I've been involved on that for so long, and to be honest, it's interesting. It's exciting, but does it in a lot of cases it doesn't meet business requirement. And until you fully understand what your requirements are and where the fit, then so I just feel that the legal tech market is very prone to that because you hear it all the time. Oh, law firms are like sheep. They wait until X does it, and then they all follow suit. To a large extent, it's true. I think it's becoming a lot more. They're becoming a lot more independent, but also the how people buy has changed. Um, they they don't want to talk to a software vendor. They don't want to talk to a solutions provider like Acertus. They want to do their own research first. Google's the answer to everything. They'll do that, and it's not until they've done all that research themselves that they might then open their door to 4 or 5 companies to come in and talk to them. So if you took in the old where they would get the companies to come in and talk to them at the beginning, they've already got they've already made their decision to some degree. They've got their preconceptions, and rightly or wrongly, and therefore the time that we have and other software vendors have to talk to them is extremely short, and it's and a lot of that talk is then just comes down to price, and it's not about value. um, and that's a frustration that we have to deal with. But I think the market is now, what I'm starting to see is, and mainly through our customer success, what clients are realizing is that if someone just comes and talks to them and hasn't got a is happy to share their experience of market, like yourself, David, with Global Insights. If people are willing to come and sit down and earn that trusted advisor role and talk about what else is happening, what are competitors doing in the market, what new products or technologies are coming to market, then you build up that trust. And they're happy to see you and they'll talk to you more. And we're fortunate that apart from primarily I manage, in other areas, in other technology areas, we're pretty much agnostic. We have relationships with software vendors. Some of those are on a referral only basis. Some are on a implementation services partner arrangement. But ultimately, we aren't going to sell a client something just because we sell, it's in our portfolio. I'm more than happy to tell clients, no, it's not something we do, but I can introduce you to someone that can. Because it goes back to that integrity, that it's more important the customer gets the right solution than whatever I'm trying to sell to them. And what I've seen in the market, and to some extent it's getting even worse, especially with these AI products, is a software vendor typically only has one product to sell. And when they go talk to a client, it doesn't matter what the client's requirements are, they're going to sell that product. and it's then a case of either the client stands firm and says, no, that doesn't fit my client requirements, or as what happened, as we've seen and had to clear up the mess, especially in corporate legal, who tend to be a lot more naive because they don't have the technology backup. They've got a massive corporate IT department, but they're not necessarily working with them on a day-to-day basis. They get led down a garden path and end up buying products that you bought that. Why? And that's something that I guess in all areas, not just legal tech, but it's the downside of the hard sales, of the pressure salespeople under. They've got to sell to make their money, and if they are don't have that integrity and they're not so worried about what the client actually gets and whether they actually use it, they just it's just license revenue to them. Then yeah, we've seen a lot of that going on, but I think clients are now starting to realize that not all the answers are out there on Google, that sometimes people that you're getting advice from people like ourselves that have worked with other similar companies is extremely high value. And as I say, we are not going to pitch a product unless we really think it meets those requirements. And sometimes clients don't even know, need help, if you like, identifying what their requirement is. They know they've got a pain, they know there's a problem, but what's causing it? What's the root cause of that? The pain might just be the symptom rather than the cause, and that it's finding that cause and then finding, is there a solution to that? Is it a technology solution? It might just be some sort of change management solution. But so I've now got a sales team that are much more consultative sales orientated, and then with our customer success team as well. I think we can provide better solutions to fit the issues. But technology-wise, I haven't got a crystal ball. I don't know what the next thing going on. I do know that we're going to see an awful lot of consolidation going on in the AI space. It's like VHS versus Betamax on acid. I think it's going to be for the next couple of years. There's be a big fallout. There'll be a lot because it's been much more simpler to build these new solutions. Quicker, smaller companies, smaller size development teams. Hopefully not so much smaller size quality assurance teams, but yeah. And so there's a lot of a lot of products coming to market, um, and a lot of it does vary in quality. And you know, it's who's got, to be honest, at the moment, it's pretty much who's got the biggest marketing budget. You know, who can shout loudest about it rather than what's best, which again is the usual way, but even more so at the moment with AI. And I think we are going to see a big shakeout, and there'll be some clients that will be left with products that don't no longer have a support, and others that will end up with the product they bought being owned by a software vendor that might not necessarily, you know, have the same interests, for, you know, for on the basis of what they bought the product for. So yeah, that's my view of the market. And I really think that the move away from, you know, whereas before, I remember the days when clients used to come to your offices, and meet with you at your offices, and then it became much more a case of the client expected the supplier to go to their offices, and now it's, oh, don't come near us. It's, you know, we don't want to, we don't need to see you, we just do a Teams meeting. So but I think it's starting to swing around to almost like hybrid working, hybrid buying. And I think it, you know, again, good old conversation doesn't hurt. It's you know, if you can have a conversation with someone that you can trust as an advisor, then it's really high value.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. There's three words that spring to mind when I think about Assertus. There's approachability. So you guys are very approachable and very easy to talk to and work with, and you call a spade a spade. You'll actually say what's what. There's the integrity aspect. I mean, you'll actually always do, and even in our dealings, Roy, I mean, you've always done the right thing, even when you didn't need to. And value. I mean, basically, what you do is in that, you actually deliver a massive amount of value in terms of your market knowledge, the people you've got on board. I mean, I think happy employees actually make a happy business and happy customers. And I mean, that value just transcends through. So, I mean, they're the three words that actually spring to mind when I think about a service.
Thank you. I'll take those all as very positive, and I'll work with my marketing people and see if they can build some sort of campaign around that.
You owe me a pint of, sorry, actually owe me a couple of red wines for that bit of marketing. No, but Roy, on a jovial note, I mean, you've got a bit of a secret you've been hiding, and I think we should disclose it to our listeners. So you've had a very unusual occupation that people probably wouldn't pick you for.
Occupation.
Yeah, I think you were a rock star, weren't you? Or you like a pop star?
I was a child of the late 70s, early 80s, and got involved in punk rock and the early new wave. Yeah, and I used to I used to run a mobile disco, and used to DJ for friends that were in bands, and got the idea that maybe I'd like to be in a band. And probably one of the least musical people you could meet when it comes to actually playing an instrument. But yeah, it was the time where, you know, you could pick up an instrument and bash out a noise. And yeah, set up a band, and uh, we we play. I think we played one sort of small little gig. You know, hardly call it a gig, just to some friends. But we were asked. I got a phone call from a photographer for a girls magazine at that time, and they said they were looking for a band for a photo story they were they were doing. Would we be interested? And it was a bigger paycheck than I got in a week doing my apprenticeship. It was like, yeah, too right. And so we went and we did this photo shoot, and they they I didn't think very much of it. They said, oh, it'll be out in a couple of weeks' time, and I'd go into the news agents and check and see if it probably getting weird looks as why is this uh, punky looking guy looking at girls magazines. But yeah, eventually it came out, and I was extremely surprised to find that we were on the cover, and I was there front and foremost on this cover of this girls magazine. And yeah, it's
Wow.
quite an experience. I remember walking back into my apprenticeship centre, and somebody had seen it and photocopied every door, everywhere I went. There were photocopies of this page of this magazine, and I got called to the director of the apprenticeship office, and I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. I'm not quite sure why I'm in trouble, but and he had a copy of this photocopy of this, and he was like, Russell, what's all this about? And sort of explained to him, and he said, well, very well done. It shows great initiative. It's like, oh, thank God for that. But yeah, uh, uh, funny enough, a friend of mine sent me a link. I don't know what they were doing, but they found a copy of it, because I'd long since lost any copy of it. But they found a copy of it on eBay. So I actually have an original copy of this Debbie Girls magazine. So if there's any readers out there of Debbie, do you recognise this rock star?
Absolutely. And I'm going to actually get a copy of this to actually like make sure it's out there as well with the podcast, right? So it's going to get out there. I mean, seriously, your hidden secret history is going to be out there for the public to actually unravel.
Yeah, well, as long as no one expects me to play, we'll sing. That's the main
Well,
thing.
that's
In
the
fact,
next podcast.
yeah, yeah. Well, I keep telling my wife that when I finally do retire, I uh I don't know, about 15 years ago, I did buy. I was supposedly playing bass guitar in those days, and I used to feel really cool getting on a bus with this bass guitar strapped across my back, sort of. But the I bought myself a beautiful electric blue bass guitar about 15 years ago, and I don't think it's been out of the box more than a couple of times and since then. But when I've got the time to sit down, I definitely want to learn it and learn some of those old punk tunes that I used to sing along to.
Well, I look forward to it. Roy, thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time, and always lovely to chat with you. It's been a wonderful chat and wonderful session, and many valuable insights and things. And as I say, Assertus, I mean, they're a wonderful company to work with and deal with. I know you've got a lot of very happy clients out there in the UK market, and because I guess the way that you sort of run the way you run the business. So thanks again, Roy. Much appreciated, and lovely to see you.
Thank you, David. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.